another edition of the Film Geeks Quarantine podcast. We don't know how long we can continue with this, but as long as the lockdown continues, you can expect one episode at least in a week. This weekend, we could not do a show for a host of different reasons. I was working on Saturday. I don't know what problems Anir had.
No, he didn't have any. I had any because there was
Arindam did not have power on Sunday, so we could not come on at time, and so it was like a huge mess. So we thought today was a good day as any, considering that today is also Star Wars Day, and since all of us, in fact, are Star Wars fans to various degrees, might as well we just log in and just talk about Star Wars and all the other stuff which has happened this past week. Before, let's not waste anyone's time. Last week has been a very, very rough week, especially in the world of entertainment. We lost two of our leading lights of the industry, of the Bollywood industry, one being Rishi Kapoor, and of course the other being Irrfan Khan, who was making quite a dent in Hollywood itself. So let's start with Arindam. What are your thoughts on the careers of these two legendary actors? And probably then we can go into stuff like what you've been watching and all of that, because that ties into our main event of today.
Yeah, I think one of the greatest contributions, I think personally, that Rishi Kapoor had on my life was the first thing that I picked up on the guitar. The day that I bought the guitar was the tune from Cars. I think there's a choice when if anyone in India gets a guitar, so it's either you play that or DDLJ. So for me, it was Cars.
Yeah, one string models.
Yeah, that has to be there. So just that. Also, he was like a mainstay at our house. Like, growing up when you're watching movies on your TV sets, every afternoon there was a Rishi Kapoor movie playing. Like, he was the guy that I remember him as the first, as a comedian in Amar Akbar Anthony. He was the comic relief. Also, like right when he started his career, it was in Mera Naam Joker. Like talking about nepotism, it's one of like the best roles that you could start off your careers with. Even before that, he had some mini roles, and then I think he launched his career with Bobby, right? And this guy, I liked his attitude later on also, because he said that for Bobby, his dad literally paid for him to get that award.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about his persona later as well. And he's one of the few Kapoors who made an impact later in his life as well. He was huge in the 70s. In the 80s and 90s, he made some shitty movies. There were a few gems over there, which were not just gems, they were iconic. Kurz, I think, was in 80s itself, and then there was Nagina.
Kurz was in the 70s. I think what you're thinking of is Damini.
Damini was in the 90s, right? Yeah, and Chandni too.
Those were in the 90s. 80s, he had Prem Rog, which was another.
Yeah, that phase is quite forgettable.
I mean, that whole 90s phase is the weirdest phase of his career, I think, 80s and 90s.
But 90s he had Hina, dude. Hina was fucking brilliant. I mean, it's as cheesy as it is, but it's Raj Kapoor's last film, and if you watch it now, there is this strange kind of because Raj Kapoor is one of the very few directors who has this singular vision, something which people like Karan Johar and all try to ape. But since he was the original, there is this entire opulence and the way the camera is moving, and then the stories which he chooses to show. It was his last film, which was completed by his son, but it was the last of its kind of. So you always had that going for it.
Also, when we talk about RK films in general, it's a weird trivia to bring up during a memorial show, but the only movie that Rishi Kapoor directed was Aab Lord Chale, which literally tanked their entire company. So the last film to come out of RK Films was Aab Lord Chale. Other than that, I think he's one of the actors from the Kapoor clan who made some amazing films that later in their career, because most of them they peaked very early. But then he had the second phase, which was quite rare for someone from his family, and then he made some very offbeat choices like Mulk and D-Day, Do Duni Char. These were some movies that you did not expect someone from his caliber and his background to choose. And for that, I think he had that lasting power and that impact, which is why you could say that he wasn't past his prime really, because Mulk came out, what, that was maybe third or fourth last movie. So he
Yeah.
was still making some good choices. In fact, he had a Netflix movie like come out just a month ago. It was a remake of that Spanish movie called The Body. So we couldn't just say that we hadn't even like written him off.
I
And
mean,
to
yeah,
talk
that's
about
true. That's very true. I
yeah,
mean,
what,
he had a very good career in that sense, the latest half uh, of his life.
also to talk about actors who weren't really past their prime, like Irfan Khan, man. That guy, I don't think his career ever dipped. It
No.
started off right from started off from the bottom. Now we hear that guy was the living embodiment. So
Yeah, but
uh,
we can get to Irfan Khan in a bit. Anil, your thoughts on the career of Rishi Kapoor?
So, my first experience with Rishi Kapoor was in the 90s as a kid, and this was when I was living in places that did not have movie theaters and all. And it was very difficult for us to get movies, and we used to have. So my dad, he used to be in the Assam Rifles, and we used to have this uh, sort of common area where they used to play movies on a small TV. And, there used to be a lot of Rishi Kapoor movies, a lot of Rishi Kapoor movies. One thing that always struck me as a kid was that because those were the first movies that I was genuinely exposed to by Rishi Kapoor, where I actually looked at him and did not see somebody who was also in Amar or Anthony or the other films. I saw somebody who probably was a little portly and was obviously romancing actresses much younger than him. And I always used to be struck by how odd that was. But and that did not make me take him seriously as an actor for a long, long time because of that. But then he did quite a lot of good movies, like what Anandam said. He has come up with some good movies. It's not like he stopped doing shitty movies. He still did shitty movies, but I think it was just that person in him who wanted to keep being involved in movies. It was not about just making good movies, it was just being in movies. That's his whole background. He's grown up around movies. So he has done a lot of good good stuff. He has done a lot of bad stuff. But what we can remember is that all agree on that the actor Rishi Kapoor was really good. And if we could give him a good script, he would deliver a good performance, regardless of what kind of movie it was. And that's one thing that I will sort of like to remember rather than the 90s Rishi Kapoor that I have chosen to frame in my mind as a portrait of this guy. I would say that the guy who really excelled when given the right script, that Rishi Kapoor was amazing. And yeah, he did actually. He was a good looking guy in his prime when he's younger. Definitely a good looking guy.
Yeah, same with me as well. Growing up in the 90s, and I think Arindam, I don't know if he remembers it or not, probably considering that he's a few years younger than I was. Uh, our uncle, who passed away a couple of years ago, he was a major film buff, growing up. And we grew up in the 90s, but we were exposed to films of the 70s because like a lot of the kids of the 90s, it's only after 95, 96 that you started watching more contemporary films. So it was always the 70s wala films. You watch, I remember as a very, very young person watching Cars or watching movies like Rafu Chakkar and stuff like that, and you always were exposed to Rishi Kapoor's movies. And like I said, my uncle constantly talking about this guy and how it was when he was growing up in the 70s and the 80s, and how big of a deal these movies and these songs were, and how jam-packed theaters were in places like Shillong. That was just fascinating to me. So we grew up with these songs and with these movies, and I guess my love for films, and I think I can speak for them as well, stem from those things. Watching stuff like that, and I think that is a legacy which he has left behind. Is he the greatest actor who has ever lived? That is not even I don't think he was. However, whatever, like Anirban said, whatever roles you give him, you knew that you would get a good performance out of those roles. And Arindam also touched upon it. He's one of the very rare actors. I think only one person who stands out in that scenario, or to make that reference, at least in Bollywood, is Amitabh Bachchan, who actually made a comeback. But Amitabh Bachchan's comeback was like full Zoro Shoro se type of, it was like a huge deal when he came back, because he was such a big name in the 80s and the 90s and the 70s. But when Rishi Kapoor came back, he did it in his own way. He picked up small projects that.
So picking up on that, I think one big difference between him and Amitabh is Amitabh had one big thing going for him, which revived his career. It just revived that career. He was a guy who was balding, he was tall, lanky, and he was making really shitty choices in movies.
Suryavansham, I think.
Suryavansham is still fine. If you think about it, Suryavansham is still a fine movie, if you all things considered. But there are so many of them, Bade Miyan, Chote Miyan types. It's made a lot of movie, by the way. Bade Miyan, Chote Miyan made.
He never went away, right? I don't think he ever went away.
But he still started wearing a bandana though, and it's very obvious. Like, you can see he's trying to hide his hairline and all. And now dude is completely on a toupee. I don't know why nobody addresses that fact. Like, he's on a toupee. He wears a toupee all the time. Nobody has a fucking hairline like that.
I think recently, if you remember, someone had posted on the group, Amitabh Bachchan, I think Abhishek is back on. One second, let me just admit it. So he had posted this really weird image of him working out, and he was wearing this bandana, the exact one that Michael Scott wears prison when he dons the persona of prison Mike.
Obviously, because you sweat a lot, and you can't wear toupees when you sweat a lot, right? You're going to be hot, uncomfortable. You have to take them off. I've had people in the office who wear toupees, and this is something I know. People from my office are not going to.
All right, I hope I'm not interrupting anything because I'm back. Anyway,
we know you're back.
We went on a weird tangent on Amitabh Bachchan's hairline
and his toupee, which nobody addresses, which nobody fucking addresses.
So coming back to the topic, I don't think Rishi Kapoor wore any toupee till the end. But he was a part of a lot of interesting films. In fact, he was a part of a film which was one of my favorite films of the last decade. And that was like a film which, not only in Bollywood, in world cinema itself, and that was Kapoor and Sons. Because I think it was such a powerful film, we talk about these issues, the LGBTQ issues, and the issues of how a small nuclear family, like most of us belong to, or even a joint family, especially in India, and how they come to terms with trauma and how they come to terms with these huge problems that, which build up over a period of time. And that, I think, captured it beautifully. The movie, Rishi Kapoor, of course, is a very integral part of the film, but he's definitely not the focal point. But whatever roles he had given the sphere of that film that he was a part of, I think that was done brilliantly. I think we also touched upon Mulk, but I think my favorite performance of his, apart from Kapoor and Sons, is Do Duni Char, because Do Duni Char captures the angst of the middle class, the have-nots, and the people who really want to achieve what they want to achieve what they need, but don't have the means to do that, and how at this age making a comeback with his wife and trying to carry the entire film on his shoulders. And that film, I think, did fantastically well. He would have done some great work, especially considering the current crop of directors who are coming up for focusing on films such as this. Like you have, Badhai Ho, the films like the Zada Savdhan film or whatever, stuff like that. He would have made a niche there, but it's only unfortunate that we can talk now about what could have been than what it was. So that said, he was an amazing talent, and I'm not really sure. I can't really comment on his personal life. Neither, I don't think it's the time or the place to do that, because there is a lot of bullshit which is happening, which is doing the rounds, and I have nothing to do or nothing to say about how he was in real life or what his political beliefs are. We're here to talk about his art, and we'll just stick to that. I don't give a fuck about which political party he sided with. I do not care. That being said, let's talk about another great actor who, in fact, was one of the best actors not only in India but globally. And he was a powerhouse talent. And all I can say is, with deepest regret right now, is that we can never get to see where his star would have taken him, because he was just getting started, and that's Irfan Khan. 2018, that was when he was diagnosed with cancer, and there were a lot of rumors flying around that he had actually passed.
When was the first time that you remember Irfan Khan being Irfan Khan?
So
I mean, we
Irfan
always
Khan,
saw him. Yeah.
So the first time I really noticed him, right? I had seen him in two movies before that, and one of them was a children's movie. It was called Karamati Court. I'd seen him back in the 90s. I don't remember exactly when, but it's a movie that you show on DD. And the first time I actually saw him was in Hasil. He was
Right.
menacing in Hasil, and that movie, it's brilliant in a lot of ways. So the first time I actually came to see a movie represent the UP student politics and all that, which has been done to death now. You see that in every fucking UP-based movie or TV series now. That was one of the first times that I actually seen it portrayed in that way, and that was the first time I saw Irfan Khan. And to be honest, it impacted me to the extent that I thought, like, this guy is brilliant, but I despise him. That's how
Right.
brilliant I thought it was. And after that there was a big lull because I didn't see him in as many movies. Then I think when I was in college, that was the first time I actually saw Irfan Khan as Irfan Khan, which was in this movie called The Warrior. And this was
Yeah.
directed by Asif Kapadia. And this is a movie that nobody had heard of or anything. And it was just a movie, and I like Asif Kapadia. It's just one of those directors that gives you very, very different movies. And we have two Abhisheks now. But yeah, the first time the Warrior was a brilliant movie. I didn't expect it to be the movie that it was, and the performance that he turned in really, really rocked my boat. I thought it was brilliant. Then I actually started looking for him in other movies, and then he has done a ton of these movies that probably nobody has seen or talks about because they don't know about it. He has done quite a lot of international cinema. Even if you don't know about him, he has done a ton of international cinema movies that are not released on an Indian
The
screen.
girl from Extraction.
You're talking about Gol Shifte Farah.
Yeah,
Yes.
he made a movie with
Song
her.
of the Scorpion.
Correct. I had no idea that she was in it, and when suddenly I saw her post that she was posting a lot of stuff with Irfan. Even I was wondering,
Yeah.
where did I miss this?
Yeah.
And I found out about this movie that I literally had no idea even existed. So he was
Yes.
making these very obvious choices that people will discover in their own time. Now that he's
Oh.
gone, I'm pretty sure they'll be passing through the IMDb list of his to
There's a
check out.
lot, man. There's a lot that people have to discover when it comes to Irfan Khan.
Uh, Strangely enough, the first time that I was aware of who this guy is because of the Great Indian Laughter Challenge. One of the guys who used to do mimicry of these Bollywood artists, so he made fun
Hold
of
on, you
Irfan
never
Khan.
watched Chandrakanta growing up?
I did.
Yeah.
I'm saying that Irfan Khan is Irfan Khan. You always saw him, but I didn't realize that he was this famous before.
So he was a character actor before. He didn't.
Correct.
He was not Irfan Khan. He
And
was a
Great Indian
character
Laughter
actor.
Challenge was like what, 2004, 5, 6, right?
No,
So
no,
that
it
is
was
also-
older than that. Yeah, 2001, 2002. Because I remember preparing for ICSE when that shit was happening.
So that is when they were making fun of Irfan Khan. So you can imagine, how obscure it would have been. So that is when I was aware. Also, one of the movies that doesn't get brought up enough is Aan Men at Work. So there's this Facebook group. It's very weird. They post 20-minute clips. Okay, so
20
of that movie, they just cut it. So they had posted the scene from Aan Men at Work, and I completely forgot that Irfan Khan was in it. And he was stealing every scene from Akshay Kumar or Shatrughan Sinha. Like, you just don't see any sort of a tertiary actor doing that. And those two were the leads. They were like nothing near him. You were just running circles around him. Not quite.
Yeah.
Like roles like that.
And he had a habit of doing that, because if you watch him in Piku, he does that to Amitabh Bachchan, because that is one unique thing which he had, which I don't think any current actor, especially the one who has crossed over, has that. I mean, fucking Anil Kapoor hams it up, even though he has crossed over and he has made an Oscar-nominated film. I mean, Anil Kapoor completely hams it up. Priyanka Chopra loses her accent all of a sudden, but Irrfan Khan was Irrfan Khan. And he was honest, be it a fucking chocolate or be it Salam Bombay. That is what he was. Even if you watch Mr. 100, which is
Hey, shout out.
which I highly recommend to everyone. Please watch Mr. 100.
Yeah.
Is that the one where he has dreadlocks?
No. That is joint.
Aryan Vaid is in that movie. And wait. Other than that, even Mahima Chaudhary is in that movie.
Yeah.
So if you haven't watched that movie, what are you doing with your life?
I probably have seen it, but I have no memory of it.
Please watch Mr. 100. Mr. 100 is a movie where Irrfan Khan plays a gigolo, and his name is Mr. 100 because...
No, he's not Mr. 100%. He's Mr. Perfect.
Mr. Perfect. Sorry.
Mr. 100% is Aryan Vaid.
Yeah. So
basically, it's a true tribute.
And so
not namesake, but we are covering Mr. 100.
And
true fans.
I mean, it is a brilliant movie in its own way, but Irrfan Khan is in that movie. I'm sure he was down on money, because otherwise he would not have.
I think he always was. If you just check out his IMDb, he always felt like he was out of money, Vechara. His luck, I think, turned after Namesake, right? That is when he properly started.
I think
after Maqbool, sorry.
I think he was doing... dude, he couldn't have been that bad when he was cast in Slumdog Millionaire, because he was there in Slumdog Millionaire as well, and he was there for a sizable portion of the film. And Danny Boyle cast him. I think he started getting noticed after doing the Pooja Bhatt film, Rogue. That is when he started getting noticed by the mainstream, and then he did the fucking garbage ass Usual Suspects remake as well. Chocolate. But he was the watchable part in that as well. I think one of his mega quality which he has is lifting average films to really watchable levels. There is, I don't know how many people have watched Life in a Metro, but his is the only story which is funny, and his is the only story which you'll be constantly invested, because there's this loser guy who really wants to get married and he's desperate for it, but he doesn't come across as creepy. He comes across as someone who doesn't know how to, he's socially awkward, and the way he comes across in that film is fantastic. And that is one way in which we can always remember someone like an Irrfan Khan. That is something which separates someone like a Nawazuddin Siddiqui also, and someone like a Manoj Vajpayee now. In between, pata nahi kya ho gaya tha usko.
One thing that I'd like to tell you,
average films.
Even for Family Man, in fact, Irrfan Khan they actually had short stuff with Irrfan, and then they learned of the illness and he was replaced by Manoj Vajpayee. So I just wanted to bring that up. Like, in an alternate world, I think Irrfan Khan would just kill that role.
Yeah. He would kill any role given to him.
My favorite Irrfan Khan performance, however, and I'm very glad Nihal brought it up the other day as well. My favorite Irrfan Khan performance was the Hutch ad. If you watch him, the series of Hutch ads, I think in total they are like some close to just 9 or 10 minutes. Okay, there are 9 or 10 small ads, and these were some of the most fantastic storytelling, mini films that you can watch. They are like some 30 seconds, 40-second adverts, and they were so matter of fact, and they were so natural, and it just endeared you even to this guy. Even you must have not watched a lot of his films, but it really endeared you, and you knew that this guy is just one of us. And that being said, let's just go and talk and read a few comments which people have written on our chats. Sudeep says, in reference to our Rishi Kapoor conversation, that Kapoor and Sons was unexpected and fantastic. For the Love of Comics has a very interesting thing to say. Apparently, his mother said that if you watch Rishi Kapoor play the damru in Main Nachu Tu Baja song, that's when he puts other actors playing any other instruments on screen to shame. He committed to things that other people just let slide. And I think that can be said for both of these people, right? They committed to a T. I mean, look at the commitment which this guy brings in his small role that he had in Spider-Man. right? It was not just, he was just a henchman. He was just one random guy. But the amount of physicality that he brought, he did his own stunts. He didn't need to do that, but he did it. And that is something which always stays with you. And he is one talent. Like I think even Neena Gupta pointed it out on her Instagram, that his struggles had just ended, and that is why it affects his fans so much. That his struggles, him staying in the obscurity, and someone who is not at all a part of the industry, an outsider coming in and making his mark, and his time had just started, and that's when he passed away. And that is really unfair, I would say.
Supremely unfair. If you look at him, he was very busy guy in recent years. I mean, he made a lot of good movies, a lot of average movies. I mean, there are movies that just came out of blue. He made Madari, he made Kissa. Kissa was supremely acted.
I mean,
has anyone watched Talwar?
Talwar, yes.
I have, but
Talwar was, I think, is a very nuanced take on a very hot topic. I don't know. I don't really remember who the director was, but I think Talwar was a brilliantly done film. I think it's streaming. It's probably streaming on Prime or Netflix.
One movie that I believe just would not work if Irrfan Khan wasn't there is Blackmail.
Yeah, Blackmail.
Blackmail just doesn't work without Irrfan Khan in it. Like, you guys were talking about how he walked the fine line between being endearing or creepy. So that fine line, I don't think anyone other than an actor of his caliber could carry off. The smallest roles. A few months ago, if you guys remember, I was just telling you that I had started Bharati Khoj, and he popped up as Al Beroni. So just the levels that he went through, like it's history right now. Right. And there are some YouTube clips as well, which kind of make you emotional now. Anubhav Sinha had come up on Scoop of Unscripted the other day, and they said like one actor that you would like to work with, and his was like, it has to be Irrfan Khan. The problem that and he was asked why, so he said that why he hasn't cast him yet. So he said one simple reason: I haven't found any, or I haven't written anything that I could approach him with. And I think Anurag Kashyap also has a similar take on it.
He also said like, I don't have a role for him.
Yeah, because he was that good. You just because they wanted to make it special. And
I think I misspoke when I said rogue, because everyone paid attention to who Irrfan Khan was in one film. The film with fucking Jimmy Shergill in the college.
Hasil.
Yeah, we already spoke about it when you were down.
Powerhouse fucking performance.
It was.
Hasil was like insane. All of these caricatures of these Bihari people that people make now, that was where it started, right? That was the Bahubalis actually coming into fore, and how this guy, being so manipulative and just taking this new guy on a ride. And I think Hasil was a standout performance for me, at least.
Oh no, there's one movie that we have to talk about if you're talking about Irrfan Khan. It's the Lunchbox. There's no way that we can miss out on the Lunchbox.
Correct.
I know it will have its own set of detractors and all, but his performance in that is as nuanced as it gets. As nuanced.
I mean, him, like Nawaz and him have this, you kind of forget how many projects they were in together. They were there in Pan Singh Tumar as well, I think. He played one of the doctors, and we had posted the Silent movie the other day, in which both of them were cast in. I think some of those projects are something that everyone will look back on, even after all these years have passed, and say that this was one of the greatest actors that, like actor pairs that we've ever come to know, and we will probably ever see. One clip that I would like everyone else to just go watch is Asian Paints. Abhishek had posted the other day. Asian Paints has this segment on which they show the childhood homes of actors growing up. So Irrfan Khan, he has a very poignant thing to say about his mother. His mother says that I do not like the city of Mumbai. It always takes away something from me. It took away my brother, and in all probability, it will take away you soon as well. So yeah, on that note, I think we can end this segment. Abhishek.
Right, and there have been a few other comments as well. Sudeep says, hopefully Song of the Scorpions will get released here as well. Snehatartho says Maqbool is where he first noticed Irfan Khan. Sarthak says Irfan was brilliant in Jazba's trailer. The movie, which you clearly remember, was shot inside Hulk's butt. तेरी अम्मा को जिसके बारे में नहीं बताया था वो तेरा बाप हूँ. He could elevate anything, and yeah, movies like Ye Sali Zindagi too, as Sid mentions, are completely underrated. That said, there has been a lot of conversation about real life versus real life this week, and that brings us to this segment which we talk about. We generally start off our podcast with this, but this week we thought, like, let's talk about stuff which has been on everyone's mind over the past week. Real life versus real life, and how important is separating the art from the artist. Louis C.K. dropped his new special, Sincerely Louis, last week, and it was free to stream. Not free to stream, I think pay to stream from his website. We, of course,
$7.
Through nefarious means. But yeah, we did watch that. But let me just pose this question to you. I personally loved it. How difficult is it for you guys to separate the art from the artist? And do you think it's a good thing that we should do it, or we do it?
Honestly speaking, it depends on how good that artist is. I won't be a hypocrite, because that is what almost, I think every one of us is a hypocrite when it comes to this. If an artist is that good, I think we'll continue listening or checking out their material. When it comes to Michael, I think it has been out in the open. The HBO documentary came out, Finding Neverland. Over there, the stuff that has been brought forward, people say that, when a Michael Jackson song plays, they exit that place. They just can't stand it. I always have separated art from the artist. I know it's quite difficult, but again, it depends on who the artist is, honestly speaking. So if it's someone whose work I do not care about, of course, I'll be like, waving that flag that, screw this guy. Maybe I don't watch that many Woody Allen movies, so I will have no problem saying that, okay, screw Woody Allen, I won't watch any of his movies. But when it comes to guys like, also there has to be levels, we have never especially established the levels of how much guys offend you, or the stuff that they actually have done in real life. Say, for example, Louis C.K. cannot be held to the same standard as Weinstein. But that is what happened during the Me Too movement. Like, all of them were.
Yeah, and the women came out and said that I don't have a problem with it. It's just something which he did, and he took permission for it. And
I think that is again a different subject as to what happened and what didn't happen, and how we take it. I think that is exactly.
But should a guy lose his career and lose his livelihood for that? I don't know. I mean, I agree, and there has to be degrees to.
No, see, if it's someone like Cosby, of course it has to. And see, I can say
the thing that you guys are forgetting, right? It's because it didn't happen to you, so it's not personal to you. So you're not going to look at it from that lens ever. Never.
Correct.
So you will not be able to say, you are not the right judge of whether that guy is appropriately guilty or not for that. Whether he should lose his livelihood over that matter, completely different matter. I think we can speak on that. I don't think so. I'll be siding with Arindam on this and say that yes, it's very hard to separate the art from the actor. Always. I mean, we're not just the actor, from the artist. It's always been the case. I mean, after they die though, something happens and people tend to forget all of these things. Now we have two very good examples of this. We have Michael Jackson, who has been elevated to a level that you can't even believe. Like, he's untouchable right
Michael
now.
Jackson's cases have been falsified multiple times.
No, and also debated, highly debated also.
Yeah, because if you watch Finding Neverland, I think it's hard to believe that Michael hasn't. So that's what it's. The public has to decide. Yeah.
R. Kelly on the other side.
Correct.
Still alive and is vilified to the extent that you cannot believe. Like, there is a certain section that also worships him, but there is also a very big audience that actually is not on his side and does believe that he is very, very guilty. Now, whether he's guilty or not, well, he's in jail, so I'm sure that he has been convicted. He was caught with child pornography on his systems. And by the way, that debate is also there, that even Michael Jackson was caught with that sort of paraphernalia
No,
in
but the
his.
FBI completely. Okay, let's not make this into a Michael Jackson defense question.
Yeah. The whole point was that you see that it depends completely on Arindam's point comes to the fore. You're looking at two people in completely different lenses just because of the work they've done. Now, I'm not an R&B fan, so I don't give two shits about R. Kelly. But Michael Jackson was a big part of my childhood. So I will try and see him in a more flattering light. I will try and give him the benefit of the doubt. At the same time, in current day, when everybody is so PC, it becomes very hard to voice your opinion also. I mean, look at Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey is completely destroyed now. He's completely destroyed. His whole career, he has none to speak of. And this is a person who can be considered one of the greatest actors of our time. From that to not even being discussed.
Kevin Spacey, there's another level of, coincidences that line up. Like everyone who has accused him has turned up dead.
Yeah.
Like this guy is the real life Frank Underwood.
Yeah, and he actually releases videos right before.
Yeah, and they are like creepy as fuck.
But the thing is, it can be circumstantial, but nobody is going to. But he has no movies in the pipeline. Nobody is giving him work. It's not just that.
Even if he's given any work, Christopher Plummer just snatches it up. So that is also there.
Well, Christopher Plummer is not going to be around for too long. I don't mean to say that in that way, but gay dude is fucking old, man.
Yeah, we get it, dude. This is not the time
that you should.
Anyway, for me personally, it's considering that I listen to the music which I listen to. The more extreme forms of music, they're made by very, very. Some of it is made by very dark, not dark people, not by black people per se, but people who are not right in the head, right? And that is, you need to be a certain kind.
What a save!
Certain kind.
What the fuck was that?
You need to be of a certain bent of mind to actually make music that extreme.
Are we talking about James Hetfield in this case?
I'm not talking about James Hetfield. Do you think I listen to only Metallica?
I'm just saying, man.
I think we're all referring to the black metal, Norwegian black metal.
We're talking about the black metal. We're talking about the some facets of death metal and the burning of churches and stuff like that. So very early in life, I don't agree with a lot of these things. Yeah. All right, but very early in life, I was exposed to this, and I found the music to be amazing. So I learned very quickly that you have to separate the art from the artist. Otherwise, my favorite Beatle is John Lennon. I mean, the Beatles are my favorite band of all time, but Lennon did a lot of despicable shit as well. So did Elvis, and so did Little Richard, who is a piece of shit. But all of these people have done some fucked up things. Again, it
Chuck Berry, not Little Richard.
Little Richard too.
No, yeah, Chuck Berry is the one who installs.
Yeah, who peed on women and all of that. But, So, and you have Jerry Lee Lewis and stuff like that.
What's it with the Golden Shower, man? Why is the Golden Shower such a popular thing to do?
This is not the right podcast for this. I know
are Americans,
10, but
are Americans really crazy? They are like Golden Shower is a thing to do.
Their president is accused of it. That's, I think.
Well, I'm sure that if you know him, that he'll just do it.
Okay, let's just read the comments. So, For the Love of Comics says that I really like art, but artists can be assholes. I would like to have art without having to think about artists at all. The issue with acting stand-up comedy is unlike, say, a comic or a book, that the art and the artists are more intertwined. Sudeep says that he was about to bring R. Kelly, and Sneharto says that MJ had won the lawsuit multiple times and the FBI could not find any evidence. For the Love of Comics also says, I get very defensive when I like someone, but that should not actually be of any consideration. Absolutely true. Either you don't care about the people being creeps or you do. How much you like their movie shouldn't matter. I'm not really sure if it's that black or white. Because we do not have all the facts with us at all points.
Not just that. My biggest defense is that we always should look at movies not just as a project that only one actor is a part of, or a director for that matter.
Yeah.
It's not. There are a lot of people involved in that. There are thousands of people working on each movie. Are you saying that just because one person is a creep or does that, the other people should suffer for it? They put in their hard work, they put in their blood and sweat for that movie. And just because of one person, you are willing to say that no, this person should not get a share of the profits that the movie is making, or will not go and watch that movie at all because it has this character attached.
I think to your point, Anshuman also says that you can say you like a song and not like John Lennon. Absolutely true. I think
But I
I think
want to
most
like
of us,
something.
yeah, that's it too, because you
The
want to share the
converse is
score.
true. The converse is also true. You can like an artist and not like his songs. Either way, that's the point is whether you are separating the art from the artist.
Because there are
In
so
this
many
case,
people you see, and we all of us, we know these kind of people who will wear a Bob Marley t-shirt, espouse on his ganja habits, and not heard one song. So I think the reverse is also true. You know, but yeah, it's a complex topic, and
By the way,
there are
did you
times
guys
when you
like
do feel
the new special?
when you do feel a little conflicted. Especially when you listen to some of the more extreme forms of music, and then you find out that this guy, in earlier in his life, he believed in Nazi ideologies and stuff like that, but he makes amazing music. What do you do then? How do you feel about his older stuff? So there are a lot of bands like that which make some really killer music, but stuff you can't, or even like for religious. I think Tom Cruise gets a lot of shit for this. That he gets a lot of shit because he's a Scientologist. But where does it stop? Why can't you give the same amount of shit to, say, Nawazuddin Siddiqui because he's a Muslim, or to, say,
people do.
to Robert Downey Jr. because he's a Christian?
But
So where
people
does it
do
stop?
give a lot of shit to his guys because there's a certain bias against certain religions and certain beliefs.
Yeah.
You're
So
not
I
going
think that
to.
is also
Large part of the
I think that is a
population
little
is
hypocritical.
Christian. It is hypocritical. That's the world we live in. The most of the audiences that are going to watch that movie is going to be Christian. So nobody is going to vilify Robert Downey Jr. until unless he goes and espouses some lines that go and makes his political thoughts very clear. He says like no abortions or no condoms, so whatever, and then people are up in arms. But until he does that, he is not going to. The Scientology is very different because one,
Sarthak,
it's
also to
not
your
a
point,
religion;
Sarthak
it's a
also,
cult.
all religions are cult, man.
Fair enough.
I think yeah,
It's better
Sarthak
to
also.
start one than to end one. Uh,
Anshuman says that worshipping celebrities is a part of a problem. I absolutely agree. The fandom aspect of it
yeah,
gets carried away all the time. It's happening with the Snyder Cut right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys have seen the video in which it has come to a point that a major studio is making fun of them using one of the animated shows.
yeah.
So fandom,
The Snyder Cut is one of the biggest reasons why DC EU had to do a major turn, and not just why are we just blaming the DC fans. I mean, what did Marvel do when the Sony had their takeover? The Marvel, egged on their fans, and they bullied Sony into giving some of the rights back to them. And they actually had not Andrew Garfield, who's the name? Tom Holland.
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland go up to Kevin Feige, actually asked Tom Holland to go and talk to the guys, the execs at Sony. So I think this fandom culture and the cult of personality thing that we find ourselves in, that is one major issue, and that is ironic because today is Star Wars Day.
Not all the time. Not all the time. I would say that sometimes they are good because otherwise we wouldn't have movies like Deadpool. We wouldn't.
But
If
Deadpool
it was
was
not.
one guy, dude. It was not like a fan petition that
That's
was
an
happening.
example. That's an example I'm giving you. I mean, there are so many shows that are revived because of how dedicated the fans. Like Chuck. I love Chuck. And Chuck was revived because of the fans. So was Community, by the way. Community went to Yahoo.
And
after which they
so was
cancelled.
Star Wars Clone Wars as well.
Futurama as well, right?
Yeah,
They changed
Futurama.
their channels 3 times.
Yeah.
So
And
that definitely happens. Like like sometimes fandom does good, but most of the times like this,
it can be
especially
cancerous. Very
correct,
cancerous.
especially the day that we are celebrating today. So there's like a huge faction that has come up. Like I don't think after Empire Strikes Back released, there hasn't been one Star Wars property that hasn't had their share of very toxic fans.
I think
Much right
you're
after the
I think
release.
you're wrong.
Clone Wars is different. I agree
That
because
I'm not talking
was
about
yeah,
Clone Wars. I'm talking about even people hated Empire.
yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
people genuinely hated Empire. It's only after years that Empire became this much vaunted, the movie which all movies aspire to be, especially when in a franchise. It's only after decades that Empire became Empire. You know, people hated Empire because they didn't know what the fuck to make of that ending. They didn't know who Darth Vader was, and that reveal just was blew people's minds. And let Pajania join. We'll get into the Disney bit of Star Wars. We'll not talk about just a reminder and just a pointer to you guys as well. Just a reminder for you guys. We will be not talking about the older Star Wars because you can go anywhere and talk. You know, we've spoken about it in this podcast and on the group ad nauseum. We'll be talking about the newer, the Disney bits because we have a lot to talk about because there has been a lot of good stuff happening and a lot of really, really bad stuff. And basically, it's at a point where the fandom is so fractured that most of the fans, a lot of my friends don't want to watch Star Wars anymore. And these are people who have grown up with Star Wars, and that is where we are at, and that is exactly where celebrity culture and worshiping pop culture gets you at. It's nothing can be more egregious than
To
Star
be
Wars. I think.
honest, Abhishek, nobody is going to avoid those movies. They're going to come out and people are going to watch them regardless of what they say.
I
That's
I
the
I
truth.
really, I really don't think that's true. Look at what happened with Solo, and look at what happened with Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
You
how are people criticizing them without watching them? They are watching them.
No,
They
no,
can
no.
criticize it.
The fact of the matter is the box office collections have reduced. Right. With Solo, with the way Solo's problem was marketing, but even that said, I think it's one of my favorite Star Wars related films because Solo is fucking fantastic. Sarthak brings up a great point. He says, and he brought it up a while ago. He says, I think for me it varies on a case by case basis. Roman Polanski, he can't separate. Louis C.K. he can. Can you not watch Rosemary's Baby anymore? Because that is also a thing, right? Because that is one of the greatest horror films ever made, and just not that, it's one of the greatest films ever made.
The
Did I feel
pianist, for that matter.
uneasy watching Roman Polanski in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? No, because he is a part of that story.
And he is being played by somebody else. And that aspect of his life is not being covered in that movie.
Right, right, right. So again, it's a case by case basis. I would think a few more comments. Speaking of Louis, I need to be access granted to the drive link. So please.
yeah, I think we have covered all that.
Sid says Michael Jackson has won the lawsuit multiple times. The FBI could not find any evidence, like I mentioned earlier. And he also says, what do you guys think about Clint Eastwood?
Clint Eastwood is a genius who has
It's
his own
just,
beliefs. Like he's
I
from
think
a different
it's
time.
just like a horse with blinders. He doesn't know how to go any other
No,
way.
I think they are
We are at
referring
a
to the
certain
chair.
time, right? I mean, do
Like,
you think John Wayne would have very liberal views at this day and age?
No, John Wayne didn't have liberal views even back in the day. He was a racist piece
He
of
won't.
shit.
That's the point. He won't have any because they grew up. They are a product of their times.
Yeah, I'm saying, yeah, that's true. Like I said, we are living in a times where everything is so PC that you can't have an opinion without people jumping on your case. You just can't.
I really don't think that's the case right now. Maybe 2 years ago, yes, but I feel like personally, this thing has gone down. Like people aren't on your case anymore. If you have a opinion which might just not gel with the mainstream, I think people have gotten over that phase in which they remember in the group as well. We had if there was any sort of accusation, we would be like, we have to believe that this
Whoa,
is
whoa,
the
whoa, 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 whoa,
be
whoa.
all and
What do you
all.
mean we?
No, I think most of us we had an actual word for it. Another Doug, remember after Ragnarok came out. So anyone was accused, it was be like a Auric Doug pakra gaya.
It started in our own group, by the way.
Yeah, our group is the only one that still is relevant in that way.
I mean,
Uh, I
for
think it
those that
moves.
don't know, I think we had some similar incident that happened IRL. When I say IRL, it means a mix of virtual and in real life. So it is not something that we saw on screen. It happened in the group. And that
Right.
actually threw us for a loop. Mostly because that person was brought in by me in that group. So I was very conflicted in that situation. But at the same time, I knew what was happening was very wrong. So I could not take his side. So that was very clear. And it's times like this that one thing I'll say that all of us were very united on that front. We said, fuck off, this is not going to fly. So I know what you're talking about when you say that maybe we are more open to discussion now, but I don't know. We never actually considered any other
Correct. I
alternative to
think
that.
even personally, all of us, we weren't so open-minded even like 2 years ago. Like
Yeah,
open to discussion if somebody didn't agree. I think in that manner we have grown a little bit, which I would say it's okay. Okay, so Anshuman says that that's like saying people who are bhakts today are a product of their time. Even then, there were levels of conservatism, and people can find themselves on the wrong side of history. Yeah, this I think it's. I absolutely agree with this as well. Uh, but I think for that matter of period, it also we weren't really sure of their political inclinations back then, right? As much
Dude,
as
I
we
didn't
are
give a
today.
fuck about all of this when I watched Mystic River. Like it's only after Trump got elected that sab bahar aaya. After not when Trump got elected, I think from 2009 or something like that, when Obama was in his first term. That's when all of this shit started coming out. Remember, he had an argument with a fucking chair. I was like, pagal ho gaya, buddha mar jayega. Remember all that shit when he had an argument with a chair?
And then he were, but you can't say that he went senile because right after that he was making some of the most interesting movies that still we are yet to see when it comes to war and how it deals with PTSD, etc. So he had everything in mind. I don't know what happened to him then during that moment. I think it was the RNC, right? Republican
Yeah,
National
yeah, yeah.
Convention when he had that thing. And after that, he made movies like American Sniper and all. So you can't just say that he satya gaya hai. There was something, yeah. So definitely, it does come to you have to separate the artist and the art from the artist at some point in time. I think all of us are hypocrites to an extent. Speaking of that, I had just mentioned if any of you guys liked Sincerely by Louis C.K. Uh, Coming to that, I don't think I did as much. This was probably one of his weakest specials that I've seen. Anyone
But
else
just
agree
goes to
with
show
me?
how good a comedian he is because he destroys someone who has taken Louis' place like an Anthony Jeselnik. Fire in the maternity ward was the last Anthony Jeselnik
But
special which has
Anthony
come out, and
Jeselnik is always has always been like this. I think if you
so
see his
has
last
Louis.
two
Louis
specials,
has always been like this. There,
no,
there
no,
is a
Louis
there is a
Louis
quote.
has been good, but I'm just saying that the it didn't have the depth to it. He had deeper things to talk about. Of course, he talks about the Holocaust and everything else, but I think that something was missing on this special. Maybe this wasn't the best material, or maybe he hadn't worked enough on it. Because usually he would get the chance to go to comedy clubs, etc. But
he has
this
been
time,
Also, I think
absent. He has been
we
absent.
got our hopes up after watching that Rogan fucking monologue for 10 minutes where he says he's watched this performance and it was like the greatest thing which he has ever seen.
because personally I was expecting something like Chappelle's last four specials. Those were like some of the like some of the best stand-up acts I've seen in quite some time, and maybe I was expecting something on that level. And because it was Louis, I felt a little disappointed.
Yeah, but I think this brings us to this other stuff that we've been watching this week. We also watched Thappad. I think all of us watched Thappad this week,
Yeah,
barring Arindam.
No, I saw it in theaters because I like
You
to
saw it
support good. Like to support good cinema.
we were watching Thappad this week, and I think it's such an important film, and I can't recommend this film highly enough for all of you guys who are joining us and whoever will watch this later. I can't recommend this film I enough. Just please go and watch this film because it is deliberately paced at a very slow. It has a very slow cadence to it
It's
because it
methodical, yeah.
makes every small transgression, every small microaggression, it makes it count because when it hits you like a ton of bricks. and it'll make you question yourself as well, because there are ways that we speak to the women in our lives, whether we're being condescending, because we don't mean harm, but how they feel, I don't think most of us ask that, or even if we do, I don't think we do it often enough. And I think that is what it 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 tries to portray, because most of the time, like when the character Tapsi Pannu's character gets slapped, it's almost like she wakes up, right? And that is the burden that she has to carry throughout the entire film. And it was such a refreshing watch, because it's backed by a major studio, and it has like an up and coming actress attached to it. And it's a very fine line, because these kind of movies tend to portray, like most Hollywood mainstream movies portray all the men in such movies as assholes, or as as complete idiots, or as complete inept, or complete douchebags, right? That is what I had expected going in, but I was pleasantly surprised that it was a very nuanced take. That is the first thing which I had asked Arindam as well. 15 minutes into the movie, I asked him, are all the men in this movie are complete assholes? And he was like, just keep watching, it is worth your time. And I did, and it is like a fantastic film. It's a great exploration of how our society is at this day and age. And the first thing, where it strikes you is this seemingly liberal guy commenting just offhandedly that women don't know how to drive, and what does this woman do when she drives a bigger car than this guy does? And he's like, what? I wonder what she does. And these are small little things which we might as well have said in passing, and we may not have meant that harm, but we do. And that makes you question all of that. It's a very, very nuanced film, and I'm very surprised. We talked about Rishi Kapoor about having a resurgence. Fucking Anubhav Sinha, man, what a resurgence has this guy had?
Article 15, right? And now this. It's
Article 15, Mulk, and now this.
Before that, he made Ravan, and I still don't see. Now I will get my comeuppance. I used to tell you guys that Ravan is a good movie, but no
Ravan sucks ass. No, Ravan sucks ass.
Ravan is a good movie.
Given up on that movie.
No, it's not.
He's like, I don't know what I was doing.
It is a well-made movie, and now that director's caliber, everyone is able to see. Because
so you're saying that the director only makes good movies but no bad movies? Is that what you're saying?
No. When I watched Ravan, the moment I watched Ravan, when I watched
but you said Ravan is a good movie. If you said
Ravan
that,
is a
if
good
you watch
movie.
Ravan and then you can see the caliber of this guy, then I would say like, okay, makes sense. Take it, maan leta hu main. But no, now saying that Ravan is a good movie.
Now I have no confidence in saying that it was a good movie. It was like, because I watched it once.
It was still a shit movie. That there's no
I've held that
going back on this.
Irrfan Banerjee, first time commenter. I think this is the first time he's made an appearance on the pod. For some reason, Anubhav Sinha gets a lot of hate called anti-Hindu by the likes of Op India. Sir, क्या expect करेंगे आप Op India?
Op India.
Yeah, if it's Op India.
Apparently, this was before Mulk. Anyone know why? Sir, बताइए sir.
I said no. He made Ravan.
He gets a lot of.
They glorified.
He mentions anti-Hindu. So I know Parjanya has a lot of thoughts on this.
Kya thought? Nothing that I haven't already shared, man.
Well, you have shared all of your body with us. You can share a bit more.
Thoughts as well.
Yes, this is full force today.
Okay, my theory over here is, anyone know who the villain in Ramayan was? It was Ravan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
How dare Anubhav Sinha make a movie in which he glorifies the villain of Ramayan and call it Ravan, and why not G1? Because G1 was Shah Rukh Khan's character's name, right? So Op India, because they are a bunch of idiots. This, I think, will probably make more sense than the actual reason why they hate it.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that's the actual reason. Like that's the thing, right? Like,
I'm sure most of those guys haven't seen the movie themselves. It's not about watching the movie. It's like just commenting on it for the sake of commenting because you have to make a point.
Yeah.
Agenda.
No, but the funny thing about, I think it's Op India. Yeah, it is Op India. The funny thing about Op India is the guy who founded Op India is the same guy who founded Faking News.
What?
Yeah, Rahul
Faking
Roshan.
News.
Yeah. Faking News.
Okay.
And so it's very strange for for him to make that jump, because if you've seen that documentary on YouTube, I Am Offended.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's there in that where he's talking about parody culture and satire culture and this that, and then 2 or 3 years later he has left faking news. I don't know if he left or he got kicked out, but he started Up India.
It's like the guy who founded Vice. Even he's the founder of the Proud Boys too, right?
Kevin McInnes.
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah, Kevin McInnes is the founder of Vice. He is the Proud Boys founder.
Yeah, he was one of the founders of Vice, but he started Proud Boys as a joke, and he started red pilling himself and Abhi Pura Nazi. So basically, because I heard of him first time when he came on JRE, and he said like it started off as a joke, but
and he was dressed as the character from Falling Down, Michael Douglas wala, with the calculator and the pen and everything.
Yeah. Sarthak, you have a friend in Sarthak Arindam because he says
Ravan. Ravan is a good movie. I think he's making a reference to the Abhishek Bachchan wala, which had Govinda playing Hanuman, right?
And also was a shit movie.
Wait, I'm confused between Drona and Ravan now.
Both the Ravans were shit movies.
More political podcasts happening. Anirban Banerjee says for a while Op India and Swaraj had the same VC funding them. Eventually they decided to dump Op India for good reason.
Imagine how shitty they have to be.
No, but at the end of the day, you can't look at venture capitalists and go the same way. They are about making money. It was making money, then they'll invest. Once they look at it and they say, no, there are enough detractors, why be involved? I don't think conscience actually plays a part in that whole thing, whether you're investing in a company or not.
Rahul Roshan, I just looked it up, is the founder of Faking News and Of India. I am wala banda hai.
Anyway, next up, before we move into the Star Wars discussion, one last movie which I would like to talk about is this movie I watched yesterday. It's called Gonjiam, and it's a Korean found footage film from last year, and it is one of the most disturbing films I've watched in a very long time because this movie will freak you the fuck out. Okay, for the first, it's just an hour 15 minutes or so, but not an hour 15 minutes, an hour 45 minutes change, and for the first 15 minutes, an hour, nothing happens in the movie.
Okay, for the first time in history of this podcast, we have some breaking news. Sarthak has said that Nicolas Cage is playing the role of Joe Exotic in a scripted Tiger King series from the makers of American Vandal. I mean, like, this is the best news. So, whom Abhishek,
who put money on Nick Cage? I put money on Dennis Quaid.
But fucking hell, man! I thought David Spade would get the role because he was the one who interviewed them first.
David Spade,
David Spade would make sense, but Nick Cage puts it on another level.
It's Nicolas Cage. Can you imagine him talking about about this guy in the fucking in the eulogy, asking that he used to like suck his balls when he was depressed?
I can. Honestly, I can.
Okay, this will be something to look forward to.
We have to get Mrigank on this. We have to get Mrigank on this podcast because
he's the biggest Nicolas Cage fan.
He made me watch Face Off twice with him, and it's weird. Like once is enough, but he made me watch it twice, and I knew then I was dealing with a fanatic. So,
but have you watched? Has anyone watched American Vandal, which I highly recommend? I have a lot of problems with.
American Vandal is amazing.
American Vandal is my favorite Netflix show. It is the best Netflix show you can watch. If anyone has not watched, here's the elevator pitch. Basically, it's a fake documentary series which follows something very stupid which happens in a school, and it interviews people in the school to figure out what happened. Basically, one guy draws a
AV Club. The AV Club does it.
Yeah.
They'll become the detectives in that show.
Yeah, they become basically detectives, and they have to figure out who drew a bunch of dicks in school.
That's on the teachers' cars. But you know what? How ridiculous that premise was. I think the second season, the premise was even. It was fucking fantastic. I thought the premise of the second season might not have had the same impact. But it was
the one in which they make everyone puke and poop, right?
Yeah.
They have the most ridiculous premises, and somehow the shows have so much heart. I don't know why of all the shows that Netflix had to cancel, American Vandal got the cut. It's
Yeah.
just
It
I
was-
think
silly.
it's about numbers. It's about numbers at the end of it. Like, I don't think it had any numbers behind it. At the
Because
end of
if
it.
you would have had to make Jackass meets American Pie in 2018, I think that American Vandal is a show which you should watch. I'm surprised if that Parjanya has not watched it. Have you watched American Vandal?
No, it's on my list. It has been for about like a couple of years now, I guess.
But
I've just fallen behind.
I'm kind of surprised that you haven't watched it because it is just out there and it's a show which you will definitely enjoy because
Definitely one of the better mockumentaries out there.
Yeah, it is fantastic. And speaking about fantastic things, just before the day is over, just half an hour left. Let's talk about the one thing which I think unites all of us, and that is love for Star Wars. Today is May the 4th, and technically it's May 25th. That is usually supposed to be the Star Wars Day, but capitalism and marketing. What are you gonna do? So
It's
today
Star
is Star
Wars.
Wars Day.
It's Star Wars
Oh,
Day
it's a
for
pun.
the rest of half of the world.
I think it's Star Wars Day because of a stupid pun.
May the
I
4th be
think
with you.
Yeah, I think it's just because of the stupid pun, man. I think this pun has made the most money. I can't remember any other pun making this much money.
Right, and till release the Snyder Cut comes. Anyway, yeah, we're here to talk about Star Wars, and I hope all of you guys in the comment section will join in as well, because we're talking about the biggest franchise that there ever is. Fuck you, my MCU. Yeah. So before we get into what we feel about the Disney movies and stuff like that, tell us about how you feel about the impact of Star Wars in your lives. Let's start with you, Parjanya.
Well, so my earliest memory of Star Wars was the Phantom Menace trailer. I watched that, and then my friend told me, he had these old tapes of the original trilogy, which we then watched. I think I must have been like 8 or something. Yeah, it was 2000. That's when it came out. Yeah, it was like 8 years old. And the funny thing is, I saw the red, the blue, and the green lightsabers, and I asked them, why, I asked my friend why these three are different. And you know how, he was my friend who had an uncle in the US, so his uncle got him all kinds of stuff, Star Wars and comic books and that kind of thing. So he told me that and I don't know if he was just smart or if he was just making an ass of me, but he said that blue means you don't have you're least skilled in the Force. Green is the most skilled, and red is somewhere in the middle. And I'm an 8-year-old man. I bought that until for the longest time. It wasn't, and then I realized that maybe there isn't anything. It's just red is the dark side, and blue and green is the light side of the Force, and that's it. There's no special reason why someone has blue and someone has green. And I think coming back to watching things on YouTube and getting into a little bit of the extended universe and all of that, I kind of liked how deep it had gone. Like how deep people had taken it even before all of the canon and legends thing had happened. But it just interests me to know all these things that come. Like that's why I like Clone Wars so much, because of all this additional world building that is happening. Like the different fighting forms that they have, and the different details that they've added to the Jedi and the Sith and all of that. And I guess that's why I like the prequel trilogy, because it has all this world building and this sort of the meat and potatoes of the Star Wars universe, where the first 3 movies, yes, they had a plot, but there wasn't that much added in terms of what does the Empire do, what is happening. It is in the prequel that it was all of that was added. That there is all these separatist movement, the trade unions and the trade routes and the Senate and all of that. And again, I only appreciated that now. like in the last maybe 5-8 years or something like that. When the original trilogy was coming out, I was still too young to actually appreciate it. For me, it was a cool lightsaber fight. That's it. Because yeah, that's what it was. And also the purple lightsaber. I still want to know why Mace Windu's lightsaber is purple. I'm not satisfied with the.
I know the real reason why it's purple. I'm not sure of the canon's reason.
Yeah, canon reason.
Yeah.
Real reason is because he's a bad motherfucker. That's it.
No, the real one was that he wanted everyone to know where he was on the battlefield.
Yeah, and he likes purple. He likes purple. Like a lot of his, that's what it says. His props usually that he takes home from the movies are requested to have BAMF written on it somewhere and some
it's
color.
On his hilt.
Yeah, it's on his hilt. Yeah.
So what you're saying, Pajani, is basically that the prequel trilogies are context cities.
Yeah.
Basically, you're building context.
Yeah,
that's why
definitely.
you like them. Abhishek, you're on mute if you wanted to say something. I can understand where you're coming from, and hating those movies becomes takes me to a place where I don't want to go, which is the whole fandom place where what we're talking about, you know. And at the same time, I just cannot like those movies at the same. Well, I don't like those movies. Even if they're context city, I watch them. I have watched them, obviously. We have all watched them. There's no way around it. They made a shit ton of brick money. But the point was that it was what they did not deliver. And which is why, again, I also fall into that same cancerous fandom area, which I don't want to. And therein lies the rub. I don't know whether to be a hypocrite or not. Because I genuinely can't bring myself to like those movies at the level that.
Anil, I have some good news for you.
Yeah.
You will actually start appreciating the prequels if you start watching Clone Wars.
Yeah, you should watch Clone Wars.
Oh, I have. Now there are two Clone Wars, right? There are two Clone Wars.
Not the Gendy one. The one which came later.
No, I have watched it. I have watched.
I like how
love
everyone
it.
has just coalesced into this agreement of something which I've been telling Arindam to watch for years. Start watching Clone Wars. Clone Wars will make you appreciate one movie which is unfairly, shat on by the cancerous fandom, and that is Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith is fucking fantastic. But before we go on to Arindam and his thoughts on Star Wars, to answer the canon reason why his Mace Windu's lightsaber is purple, that's because he doesn't have a kyber crystal in it. He has something called a hurricane crystal. So that is particularly why, because he is someone who Mace Windu in the canon story Stones, I think it's in Star Wars Tales. There, Mace Windu, he is someone who is वो बोलते हैं ना भक्त type का.
I'm one with the Force, and the Force is with me.
He was someone who is very closely associated with the Force, because he is the one who could actually communicate with the dead and all of that. So before, like with Qui-Gon, this guy was also someone who was very spiritual, so as to say. So he wanted to make his own lightsaber, and he went onto this planet. A long story short, he got a different kind of a crystal after his first lightsaber was lost. This is his second lightsaber, and he makes his own lightsaber with a hurricane crystal, which gives him an purple glow. But the actual one was in the movies. Samuel L. Jackson went and told George Lucas that I don't want to be like any of these motherfuckers. Give me a brand new color, so he chose purple.
Yeah.
I think for me, I got introduced to Star Wars because of another property that I love. It's The Simpsons. Yeah. I used to watch Simpsons every day after school. Like, school used to end at around 3. So at 3:30, they used to show Simpsons.
No, I think prior to that, we already had the Star Wars card nameplates and all of that. So we knew about what Star Wars was.
Yeah, but I don't think I had watched the original movies then, because Star Wars is one property that, in India at least, it's something that, not right now, but when we were growing up, it's not like one of those movies that came on TV regularly. It's one of the movies that you had to go and search for. Yeah. So I was aware of what these things are, and Homer Simpson's actually spoiled the Empire Strikes Back reveal for me, because he walks out of the theater and he says that I can't believe that Darth Vader is Luke's father. And like those people standing in the queue for the theater, I was the one who was like, "What is this supposed to be like a major spoiler or something?" And then I watched the movies later. I think one of the first earliest memories that I have is that you have those cornflakes where Tony the Tiger is the mascot.
Chocos.
Frosties, yeah. So Frosties, when I think the first movie when it was coming out, Darth Maul's photo was on every Frosties thing, and they had some toy on it as well. So I remember asking my mother to get me one of those because I did not know what Star Wars was then. So I watched the prequels.
We got an R2-D2, and then the second time we got a Millennium Falcon. So
yeah. So I think that is where my love for Star Wars started. I actually did not enjoy it back then as much as I did way later, because first it was too boring for me. When I first watched the movies, it had too much talk, and I could understand what was going on. Basically, the fights were cool, everything was cool, and the CGI looked very hokey. Even back then, I didn't really dig the CGI that much, because I grew up watching these movies which had practical effects, and this movie didn't have much, so I didn't really like it.
All of Yoda is practical effects. What are you talking about?
No.
He's talking about the prequels.
The prequels. I watched the prequels first.
My bad.
So after prequels, then I discovered the original movies, and then I realized that this wasn't the original cut at all. Then I started realizing, okay, there's the different types of orders in which you can watch the movie. There are different editions that you can watch, and I think it was way later in college when I for the first time that I watched the original cut, which was the theatrical cut, which did not have the weird CGI of Jabba, etc., etc. And that is when I truly started loving this franchise. So I was late to it, but I think I really liked it later on, eventually. And right now, as people, they criticize the Disney movies. For me, the Disney movies have provided my all-time favorite Star Wars movie. It's Rogue One. I find it better than Empire Strikes Back. I'm sorry, but that is how I feel. And
I think I'm with you on that one, Arindam.
More than Rogue One,
even for me.
I really liked Last Jedi too. I like the next movie as well, Revenge of Sky, Return. What was the name?
The Last Skywalker.
Rise of the Skywalker. I am okay with it. I wasn't on the hating brigade, but I thought The Last Jedi was pretty good. But till date, even more than Rogue One, I think The Mandalorian is something that has caught my attention. And just today, they released a special showcase documentary. I think it will be an 8-part documentary which will release every week. And the first episode focused on all the directors and how they brought Mandalorian to life. So that is something that I would ask everyone to check it out. It's streaming now on Hotstar. It's called Disney
Showcase. Is that the one with the video wall? They explain the video wall thing and all of that.
No. That was the VFX breakdown that ILM had released. So this one is a new documentary that they released because it's May the 4th. So over there, the first episode deals with all the directors that have handled this property. And over there, I think we're discussing something about, being exposed to great directors. So Bryce Dallas Howard is there, and she's sitting in a round table with all these fantastic directors. And she says, when I was a kid, my dad took me to this meeting in Japan to meet Akira Kurosawa and Steven Spielberg, and I fell asleep. And you should have seen everyone's face in that round table meeting. It's amazing. Like, nepotism gets you to places, man. So this is one documentary that I would.
Bryce Dallas Howard is actually great.
I think she had one of the more weaker episodes over here. I think it's the second.
No, I'm talking about her as an actress.
Yeah, she's a great actress. Yeah, she's really good. But as a director and nailing this job, especially when you see the talent that's on that table, she's definitely out of place over there.
Do you guys know why they have names like that? Why Bryce Dallas Howard is named Bryce Dallas?
Yeah, the city where they are conceived, right? Something like that.
Yeah, apparently all of Ron Howard children are named like that.
Yeah, even Beckham's kids.
Yeah, even Beckham's are like that, right?
Yeah, but
Just about to say.
I like the first time I heard this, and you're like, how infrequently do you have to have sex that you exactly know? I mean, I'm sure he's a guy who travels a lot. I'm sure he's like going from one place to another. So how infrequently? Like you can't actually do that, right?
This is a
Otherwise,
bunch of kids with city names all over the world.
no, I'm saying is that you can't do that.
It's
You
like
do it
I
today. You
haven't watched
can't
Money Heist,
point
but
out.
Money Heist has a similar concept like of characters named after cities, right? So they all
No,
Ron.
that's because they
They do
don't.
something.
That's the basically the Tarantino wala concept. They don't want to.
Yeah,
लिखा
Mr.
रहेगा
Blonde,
किधर
Mr.
Addis
Blonde.
Ababa
I get
करके.
it.
So my relationship with Star Wars is similar to Arindam's. Basically, I initially when I had watched it, I actually thought they were lame. Then Star Wars is also the movie which made me open up my eyes when I tell on the group also that I love Star Wars because it opened up my eyes to one particular thing which I treasure dearly, and that is films. Because Star Wars was the film which exposed, opened up my mind to different techniques of films. The practical effects versus the CGI, and how a practical effect is always better. The stuff you could that like these guys achieved. When you go back and watch these amazing documentaries about making of the first three films, these are some amazing things that they achieved on that budget. The first film especially, the fact that George Lucas had it all figured out right from the beginning of when he made you know THX 1188. Right since then he had it all figured out. That is something which just still to this day blows my mind. He had a plan for everything going forward, including the new trilogy. And where there is a talk of now, I don't want to talk about the betrayal that what Captain Kennedy and the other guy did with George Lucas's property, and how Disney has betrayed the original vision and all of that, because it's not the time. But there is a sense of bitterness which does come into your life after Star Wars has been a part of your life for a decade or more at this time, right? Because we've been, at least I've been a fan of Star Wars, like a dedicated hardcore fanatic of Star Wars fanatic for like close to 10, 15 years now. I have read all of the EU books, almost all of the EU books. I love the comic books. I love all of the exploring the stuff, and I really pride myself on knowing the lore. And when you see all of that, and they put an exposition dump and they completely ruin what you grew up loving, that is kind of insulting. I wouldn't say insulting because that would be very entitled of me, but I would say that is kind of sad. That, to see where how fragmented the fandom is at this point. So let's start with Anirban. What do you think about the Disney Star Wars? There are like 5 films and 1 TV show. We get into the Mandalorian later. Let's talk about films.
I think they serve a very different purpose. It is. I mean, we are getting these movies after a long time after the prequel trilogies. And I think we saw a huge rise in at least the hype and the interest peak to a level that is reserved for very, very hallowed movie franchisees. And I actually like them. I think while they deviate a lot, but from what the original vision might have been, and again, I'm not going to speak on that personally. But at the same time, it does a very important job, which is introducing the whole franchisee to a bunch of millennial kids who
So a new generation, basically.
to a new generation. Yes, and in that sense, it's just keeping those movies alive. Because, like it or not, a lot of people will watch the original trilogy and will not like it if they watch it for the first time now, because those movies are way, way, way beyond what kind of movies they are exposed to and like to watch. I mean, you have movies that are becoming hits that make no sense. Jumanji should not be a hit in any world. I don't understand it, but it is. It made a huge ton of money. The only reason for that is because
The
people have a
Rock.
very different mindset. Yeah, and coming down to this, yes. So in that sense, I think though these movies, whether you like it or not, they are very well made movies in that sense. Yes, there is a big corporate thing going on behind it, and all that is very well structured and planned, which almost to the point that it feels like there's something missing, which is the soul. But at the same time, you just cannot take that away. I mean, that's how you have to approach it for the new audience. And I'm not sure whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but we will get to see a lot of this. This franchisee is the biggest franchisee in the world. MCU ko chodo. This is the biggest franchisee because it is keeps churning out things on a regular basis. Keeps churning out, and there's so many movies that I love Rogue One. I didn't like Solo as much. I don't know why you liked it so much, but I think that was one of the weaker movies that.
Since we're talking Rogue One, can I quickly interject and then Parjanya and Arindam can also join in, and I would like to know from the comment section as well, because a lot of people have mentioned that Rogue One is their favorite. You know, the basic problem with Rogue One is the first two halves of the film has really weak characterizations. I know Star Wars has completely, is built on great characters. Everything about, if you have to take one good thing about the new trilogy, it's that all of these leads are charismatic. Right? That is the problem with fucking Rogue One. Rogue One doesn't have great characters. What do you know
disagree. No, I don't need to know anything about.
Let me finish. Jyn Erso's actions are so fucking, all over the place that one moment she doesn't care about joining the rebellion, and the next moment she wants to fight for the rebellion after the rebellion has killed her father. What sense does that make? Because the rebellion attacked the base at Edu, right? And then what do you know about Cassian Andor? Apart from the fact that he's been in this fight since he was 6
जानने
years old.
के लिए देखिए Disney Plus में next year Cassian Andor.
Did you know about this when the movie came out?
I don't need to know. Cassian Andor was just like a guy who was basically the Han Solo character, and they didn't make any qualms about if he shot first or not.
The great part about this movie was the final 45 minutes. And I keep saying this all the time, that the final 45 minutes are way up there with the best of Star Wars movies, because it has the Hammerhead Corvette, it has fucking Darth Vader, it has all of these great moments there. And the fight.
Okay, I just changed my mind. I'll tell you my favorite Star Wars movie that is not in the original trilogy. It's Spaceballs.
It's which?
Come on, Spaceballs, man.
Okay.
How can I not like Spaceballs?
Wait. We'll get to that. I want to talk about later. The broader sort of cultural importance of Star Wars, Spaceballs, and all that. That's the whole.
Like, how can you not say that there aren't any memorable characters? I mean, K2SO is the most, is the best droid from the new. I think IG-88 right now is as popular, but K2SO was a great character.
IG-11, I think the best.
Even
the new one is
Donnian's character was really good. Like, it was memorable. You knew exactly where they were coming from. Both of those Base Malbus, I think, was the same, and Chirrut
I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the leads, the protagonists. The protagonists are really.
Cassian Andor also had these specific character, like, beats. You knew that he was the Han Solo stand-in, and you didn't have to wonder if this guy was the guy who shot first, because he was playing dirty right from the get-go. That is why I think I'm one of the few people
and this is why I don't understand why people shit on Solo so much, because Solo is, for me, is the pre-Mandalorian. It's a proto-Mandalorian, because you can watch Solo with literally anyone who has never watched a Star Wars film, and they will enjoy Solo, because you don't need to know anything about anything in Solo. Solo just stands by itself, apart from that fucking post-credit scene where they wanted to make a Marvel film all of a sudden. But apart from that, Solo stands on itself, and Solo is a fantastic film. It's a great adventure film. It's movies which we don't get anymore. It's right up there with the mummies of the world and fucking national treasures of the world. It's a great fun popcorn flick. If they churn out a movie like Solo every year, I would be more than happy to go and watch a movie like that. What I don't want is a confused narrative like The Last Jedi, because The Last Jedi didn't know what it was saying, because there were so many things which were going on. Parjanya, your thoughts on The Last
Jedi? So The Last Jedi is probably my least favorite Star Wars movie. I would rank it at the bottom. I didn't. I like Rise of Skywalker for the most part. It was pretty decent. Uh, Force Awakens was also pretty good. My problem with the Last Jedi was it was boring. I fell asleep. I fell asleep the second time while trying to watch it. At the same moment, because I don't care about that bloody B plot with the whole Finn and Rose on that casino planet thing. That like fuck that part. Fuck that part. Yeah, that didn't need to be there. That could have been a 5 minute sequence and that was it. They didn't need to have any of that.
Cantobite, I think Cantobite could have been changed, and this is going to be very controversial. Trust me, I don't hate women, and I don't have any problems with Kelly Mary Tran. But if you take Poe Dameron and put her where Kelly Mary Tran was, because what the fuck is she who is fighting a war since she was born? What the fuck would she teach a child soldier who is basically Finn? That is where I hate The Last Jedi, where a soldier is teaching a former child, a child warrior basically, who has been taken from his mother's womb and been trained to be a killer and trained to die. What will she be teaching this guy who has been, it's ingrained in him to die?
I think the disservice that they did was in Rise of the Skywalker. They could have expanded so much more on Finn. They meet those new horse people who were also former stormtroopers. They could, if they just said that they were inspired by Finn or something, that could have made much more impact. Because Finn had nothing to do in the last movie, like literally nothing.
He is a character who's love, or what do you call this? Because Disney is so adamant on not having gay characters on screen that in the first movie, I thought him and Poe are going to be a couple. Then it was him paired against fucking Rose. And then he was paired against Rey for some reason.
I think that actually would have happened if they had a plan in, set. Anil just said that, they had planned it and everything. I don't believe that's the case.
No, there was no plan.
Because J.J. Abrams and his mystery boxes, man. He builds up something he doesn't want to conclude or come to the conclusion of what needs to be done. He does this on every property that he starts. He did that on Fringe. I'm not sure if Lost was also.
No, Lost had it as well.
Lost was pretty bad in that sense. Yeah.
So they don't know what they want to end with. He always has these great ideas and then he leaves them. And maybe if he had some certain plans, maybe in the Last Jedi, if they had what they wanted to do, nothing was there because Rian Johnson wrote the script with nothing, coming before, because he was given a clean slate. And a clean slate is something that you do not want going into the second movie in a 3-movie franchise.
Yeah.
The clean slate should be the Force Awakens, that is the clean slate. You have given it, build upon that. They completely change it. I individually like each of these movies. I have no problems with them. But as
a trilogy, they fail.
As a trilogy, it fails.
Yeah.
It fails on every level as a trilogy. But as individual movies, they have their merits, they have their problems like every Star Wars movie. But that is the problem. They should have had a plan in mind. Like the prequels, they definitely had a plan. They knew what they wanted to do, and they did it. Results may vary.
The first poster which came out in the prequels was Anakin Skywalker with the shadow of Vader.
Yeah.
Yeah, that told you everything.
Yeah, that told you everything. You knew where the story was going, right? And the biggest problem with The Last Jedi was, this is the part which I love and hate at the same time. And that is their handling of Rey and their handling of Luke. Rey, what I love about Last Jedi is they mystified the Force again. They said that the Force doesn't choose. It can flow with in the blood of the princess also, and in the blood of a commoner, like a nobody, like Rey. They mystified the Force like that. But the way it was treated from that is kind of bullshit. Because for some reason they had to retcon that. The way they retcon that was also fine, because my logic was, what is the worst thing that Rey could have heard at that time? In Last Jedi, the worst thing that she could have heard was, you're not special, you are just, a random person. And in the Last Jedi and in Rise of Skywalker, it works because what's the worst thing that she could have heard at that time when she's a Jedi? That you are born from the family of the most evil person of the galaxy. So that way it works. But the way they handled Luke was also weird because I don't want old man Luke doing ninja shit, taking down armies. But I didn't want him to be turned into a coward, which it basically was. Because Luke Skywalker, for me, when they speak about the greatest heroes in all of literature, you speak about Tom Sawyer, you talk about, your Sherlock Holmes, and you talk about all of these great characters, Superman also. For me, Luke Skywalker is at that level. He is one of the greatest characters in any medium. And they reduce him to that. And so for me personally, I hated what they did with Luke Skywalker when he throws away the lightsaber and stuff like that, and how he explains the Force and how Jedi's were actual dicks, which I agree with. But the way he says that to someone who has actually come to learn, that is something which I felt Luke Skywalker from the original trilogy would do, because he was someone who was idealistic, he was someone who was who actually believed in making a change, and him becoming a coward just because of one dream, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Irrfan, what about you? What did you think about these factors?
Oh, yeah, completely right. I mean, I know what you're talking about, Irrfan. When I say completely planned out, I don't mean it in that sense. I mean, logistically, when we talk about how they have approached the whole movies, like they have approached it not like the movies that they were, but they have approached them like building a whole aura around it. Let's just say building a whole sort of mysticism around it in trying to approach it from that marketing angle and all that, which they did. I don't know why they didn't do it for Solo as well, because it is equally a part of the whole thing. Maybe they didn't believe in the whole project from the beginning. Also, I'll be what to say. I don't like Aaron Reich. That's his name, right? I don't like him as an actor. I find his whole accent very irritating. But that's
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver, I thought was the best.
Aaron Reich, Solo. I'm talking about Solo.
Alden, yeah.
Let me get to the
Aaron Reich,
because
right?
we have a lot of comments. Sarthak says the world has changed. So there was so much there was in the Star Wars universe, and none who lived to remember it. For the love of comics, Anshuman says, I must be the only person who doesn't like Rogue One. Anshuman, I think you and I are on the same boat. I don't like it. It's just that I don't enjoy it as much as other people do. Sarthak also says, I think Rogue One has the strongest selection of actors in any Star Wars movie. It really comes through in certain moments. That is the key phrase, in certain moments. The entire movie doesn't live up, the writing doesn't live up to the caliber that is on that screen. That's just my opinion. Also, Anshuman adds, now that I've started watching Clone Wars, I think it must be my favorite Star Wars since the 77 movie and Empire, and I have only watched one season. It is true. Fucking Clone Wars is fantastic. Anirban says, the derivative work that followed in the comics and other films has to be credited to them though. Good X-Men arcs, Shia Straight's
Starjammers,
Empire and the Starjammers, etc. also is from Spaceballs, as he is also a Spaceballs fan. Anshuman also adds Clone Wars and Mandalorian and the PC game Knights of the Old Republic are Star Wars that I've enjoyed way more than most of them. So I think I am in agreement with that.
Hey, what D&D supposed to do? Knights of the Old Republic?
Knights of the Old Republic is kind of it.
No, D&D was supposed to do, right?
I thought that fell apart. I thought that project fell apart. Or was that another one?
Oh yeah, they quit Star Wars, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
They were going to do it.
I don't know if you can see my screen. Wait. Okay.
No, because of your background, we can't see.
Okay, let me just close the background for 1 second. 1 fucking second. And yeah.
Carbonite.
No. A friend of mine just too
bright.
shiny. Too bright. Oh no.
Yeah. Carbonite. That's.
He just made this. I just saw it. He's an artist. Raj Das.
Nice.
Pretty good, great artist.
Yeah, I follow him on Instagram. He's like, he made those posters when Mandalorian was coming out, right?
Yeah, he's also made one on the Xenomorph, which is pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
Pretty fantastic.
I have to say though, two things that the sequel trilogy, the Disney trilogy did right. One thing that it did right and one redeeming factor for the Last Jedi. So the redeeming factor for the Last Jedi, it has one of the most visually amazing scenes.
Yeah.
The
That
intro.
Rogue One has some amazing
The
cinema.
light speed jump at close range that they do at the end is amazing. Like, and that I'm very glad I didn't watch it on camera like I usually watch these things. I mean, I did watch it, but then I watched it in the theater as well. But I'm really glad I watched it in the theater because that was amazing to watch. And the second thing is Leia.
Did you like?
I liked what they did with Leia. Because my question always was, since I watched the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy, sir, why does Luke only have the Force? Or why is it only Luke trained with the Force? Like that, like giving that to Leia, giving that.
No, they always said that she was Force sensitive because she could feel, right?
Yeah,
she was sensitive
that's
to the
it.
Force.
It was more like lip service. She was never, until this, she was never shown to be anything. I mean, she never had any more of a role.
No.
Honestly speaking, I did not like the space Mary Poppins part.
No, the Empire Strikes Back. They show that she is Force sensitive when she senses Luke there and she calls out and she reaches there with the Falcon. I think they hint at that. I understand what you're saying. They hint at that, but explicitly showing her as Force sensitive.
Yeah,
that has been expanded in the amazing Timothy Zahn trilogy, which
Dark Empire.
Everyone to check out. Yeah. It is just insane of where Star Wars would have been if they would have stuck to the expanded canon, because most of the cool stuff which we want now, all the cool stuff which we watch now and we love now is all from the expanded canon. Do you like Mandalorian? Check out Clone Wars and check out the expanded canon. If you like Rey, there is an entire New Jedi Academy started by Luke, starring Jaina Solo and Jason Solo. You like Kylo Ren? There is an entire Jason Solo arc. So there is some amazing, stuff which has happened, which is still happening in the comic books, and there are games which are coming out which are fantastic. Apparently, Fallen Jedi is one of the greatest games.
Fallen Order,
sorry, is one of the best games of last year, and also I think Sam Witwer's game where he plays Sam Witwer's game, whatever.
I think for games we'll need to get either Sid or Mrigank here because they are the ones who are pretty serious gamers. I think we can get a fair review of those games, whether they are really good or not. Like we can speculate all we want.
Also games. And I just want to add, do you remember this old, I think it was Star Wars Starfighter or something? The old game. I was on Windows 98 or something. That was actually, I played that before I watched any of the movies and before I had any idea. And I had one of those Phantom Menace toys, that the little yellow ship that Anakin sits in with R2, the one with the long end and
the dovetail one.
The dovetail one, which I always thought was backwards until I watched the movie and I was like, hey, ulta khel raha hai. But what I wanted to really talk about was the movies are there, the comics are there, and I have to say, Disney and Star Wars is on one side, but what Marvel has done with the recent comics, and I think Abhishek agrees, everyone who has read the comics will agree, Marvel has really done well with the comics.
Because they have got some of the best names in comics working on it. They have Kieran Gillen, and Jason Aaron,
even Cassidy was drawing the first part, right?
They had Cassidy working on that, and they have fantastic writers working. I mean, Kieran Gillen, who was pushing one hit after the other. You have fucking Jeff Lemire working on a Darth Vader series.
Yeah.
Charles Soule also wrote the
right after Moonlight. Yeah, Charles Soule and stuff like that. They have some amazing writers, and I think that is what will carry the legacy of Star Wars forward. When people say, this because of the collections of the Star Wars will die and all of that, it's never going to die because the legacy is going to continue throughout. Now, every time there is a lull, it always changes the game. Now, look at I remember the fandom being completely down and out after the Last Jedi and how fragmented everything was, and then it was Mandalorian, and overnight Baby Yoda became a huge thing. It was so huge that our group fractured, right? And it was a huge deal, and it still is.
Yes.
Mandalorian,
People who don't like the franchisee, even they love Baby Yoda.
yeah,
They do. It's a meme now. It's a
and
pop culture thing.
you cannot watch anything Star Wars. You maybe don't give a fuck about anything about the Skywalkers, about Palpatines, about anything or anyone. However, you if you watch Mandalorian, because all of these 8 episodes are 8 small movies, you will find something which you love, and that is the beauty of this universe. Let's start with Arindam.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Mandalorian?
Mandalorian is quite simply the best thing that's the best Star Wars property there exists in any sort of medium. I think it's better than Clone Wars, it's better than anything. It's like the gold standard to maybe the future things that will come out of Disney Plus shows. I think any show that comes up has to meet that standard. Otherwise, we'll just say that it's okay, but it's not the Mandalorian.
And it was made by Jon Favreau.
It was made by Jon Favreau. I mean, that guy and Dave Filoni, these guys are the ones who have brought back life into, they have injected life into Star Wars, the franchise again. Like, they have made us excited about, they make us look forward to new Star Wars properties, man. Because there's so much happening. Every day someone new is announced to, okay, maybe this guy will do another movie. We have no idea what's it about.
Taika Waititi
Yeah, Taika Waititi is going to do it because of the strength of how good his episode was. I mean, that is one of the greatest, 40 minutes of television that I've seen. It's just
You knew it was Taika Waititi when you saw the Stormtrooper punch Baby Yoda.
Yeah, exactly. On this documentary, right? He said that just to rein me in, we had Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau on set just to rein him in. So you know that what he's capable of given the stuff that he does on Ragnarok, etc. So he said that we know that it's a serious show, but that doesn't mean that, it's a serious show. So I would really like to see what Taika Waititi does. I'm not, they were talking about this weird Magnificent Seven type of thing that they were going to do in the Star Wars universe. Set in
So I heard like Ryan Johnson was developing a new trilogy, isn't it?
Yeah, there are multiple people. Ryan Johnson's. I have no idea when it's coming.
Ryan Johnson's trilogy is dead.
The latest one is Leslie Headland, the creator of Russian Doll. Yeah,
she's writing the new series with.
I have a problem with how Lucasfilm is marketing this because maybe 2 years ago, if you told us there's a new Star Wars show coming out. And it's going to be a Mexican-led show, which will also have a female. That would have, negative connotations to it, right? Like, show us why it matters. Like, story hai, ye hai, wo hai. Everyone will be okay. Like, I don't think there has been any complaints regarding the diversity. The characters, they work themselves into the story. Like, everyone appreciates it. Now, you are advertising this as a female-led show. Like, why not just have females in it? Why say that, because Star Wars has a very toxic fan base. When you add things like this, even if it's good, why start off with, on the wrong foot?
And by the way, that strategy never seems to work for any studio.
Ghostbusters, exactly this happened, right? Like, you have
Ghostbusters,
good characters. It doesn't matter if you're casting females, if you're casting anyone, it just really doesn't
just
matter.
Brings it to the forefront, and you've got to understand that you're trying to sort of bring out those emotions in people that, in this politically correct environment, they're the kind of people. But the people who actually watch those movies are from fan bases. Fan bases will not care if you don't raise it up. You're just trying
if you have a good story, I don't think it'll matter if it's like female-led or who's the diversity is epic. Like, have it, but just don't make it for the sake. Like, announce it as a diversity ke liye hi ye kar rahe. What does it mean? It's just female-led hai. Like have those characters. It's okay. Like have females, but make good stories, good characters. Like come first, right? Rather than have it advertised that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it makes any sense to do it. Whenever there has been a movie like that where they have tried to push that whole thing, gender thing and political correctness and all of that. The
No,
movie
I mean
has
you have
not
that
done
in the show.
properly.
There's no issue at all. But
Yeah,
my problem is
And
like don't make it
Star Wars is a
marketing.
property. Star Wars is a property which is known to have, strong female leads. I mean, this is the
Yeah,
franchise which,
exactly.
yeah, this is the franchise which gave you Padme. This is the franchise which gave you Jin also, and this is the franchise which has fucking Gina Carano as a female.
Exactly. Cara Dune is like everyone's favorite, even more than Mando. I think everyone says that we need a Cara Dune show, like the most hardcore of the. I'm in some of these shitposting Star Wars groups in which they hammer on, Rey and everyone. But for Cara Dune, those people are like, we want a solo show, like just
Yeah,
featuring
and
Cara
it
Dune.
has also and it has also given, like, when you see these young kids these days dress up as their favorite Star Wars characters, half of them are dressed up as Rey. Because Rey has that appeal among kids. She's like the John Cena character, right? Because we'll never get the appeal because we're not that age.
Right.
But we appreciate it, but we'll never get it. I understand. I understand it, but I don't appreciate
Like
it.
even these movies, they didn't say that it's a first time we'll have a female led character. I don't think the marketing was focused on that, but the new crop of marketing that has been done for, especially for this show, really didn't like it. I have no problems with them having like make every character female. That's okay, but focus on the stories and the characters first. I think that's a better long term plan rather than having.
But I'm really excited. I'm really excited for the second season of Mandalorian, which comes out this October, I think.
Yeah, this October.
Because they are done shooting and they are done
hopefully.
almost done the
Hopefully.
productions also.
For the first time, I'm excited more about the score. I think even Sarthak says that he fell in love with the show towards the tail end of episode 1 when Mando gets on the turret. The music kicks in. Like for the first time, they had trap music in Star Wars. This is something that I never expected. I love John Williams as much as the next guy, but this is something that I didn't expect from this show. I mean, this the score itself, I liked it more than Watchmen's, and Watchmen is like by Trent Reznor, who's like my absolute favorite. But this has so much variety to it.
Which I keep plugging all the time on WhatsApp, on Facebook, is the track Nurse and Protect from the episode 8 soundtrack. I think that is where you have a mix of what Ludwig Göransson is doing and what John Williams has also done, because it goes in from that woodwind kind of that world beat kind of vibe that he's trying to do, and that completely takes a ascent into John Williams territory. That's just fantastic. Like with the entire orchestra playing the Mandalorian theme, that is amazing. I'm really excited for the final bits. We'll be wrapping up really soon, ladies and gentlemen. The last part about what we want to talk about is season 2 of Mandalorian, because we have perhaps the fans' favorite character making her long-awaited live-action debut, and that's Ahsoka Tano. Before we go into Ahsoka Tano, has anyone watched Clone Wars season finale?
Not now.
No, and you will not spoil it because many people on the chat also.
Yeah, I'm on season 6. I still have season 7 to do.
Okay.
How are you on season 6 in 3 days, man? You're just like an episode ahead. Are you skipping?
No. It doesn't take a lot of 20
Not
minutes.
take around.
Not at all.
I'm watching like about an episode or 2 episodes a day.
Do you have the
Why
same
watching this? Because everything is a
job
movie.
that you do,
Char
man?
episode का arc होता है. Anyway, so the next, Rosario Dawson has been cast as as Ahsoka Tano, and she is by far, apart from Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, my favorite Star Wars character. At least my second favorite Jedi. She is just amazing, and people who have watched Clone Wars know what I'm talking about, and people who have watched Rebels. She's just badass, and she is the perfect example of what this franchise can be. and she is Dave Filoni's pet project because he's the one who's created her, and he has taken the best parts of the expanded universe and has put all of that shit in her, right? And that is why she has the grit of Anakin Skywalker. She has the talent of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And she's like a perfect mashup of both. And she has this amazing dual lightsaber and this mashup of fighting styles. And she can hold her own against Sith Lord like fucking Darth Maul even when she's a kid. She's just brilliant, and I don't know how they're going to do it, but she's one who hangs out in the outer rims, and this is something which I had predicted last year when the show had started, that I would love to watch Ahsoka Tano, because as soon as I saw that the show was built on the outer rim, I knew that they would somehow, and Filoni was involved, they would somehow have Ahsoka in it. So I'm like really excited for this. What about you guys? What are your thoughts on the season 2 of Mandalorian?
I'm not. Have they announced the directors list yet? Because that is what I'm more interested in first. Because I'm pretty sure it's in good hands with Favreau, but I'm more excited for who will be directing the show. Because if they bring back people like Deborah Chow, that's something that I would be really looking forward to. Because they need good directors. Rick Famuyiwa, I think was his name.
Dope.
That guy was really good. He made the Bill Burr prison episode.
Oh yeah.
So again in season 2, I would like these mini tributes, because every movie was derivative of some movie or the other. Like they had the Magnificent Seven, they had a Prison Break movie. So I would like them to continue like this and have maybe the last 2 episodes focus on what the grand scheme of events would be. Also, I would like to know how the Giancarlo Esposito's character comes across the dark saber, because to get the dark saber you need to kill the person who has it before them, right? So I'm not really sure like how he got his hands into it. I'm yet to reach those parts. I just know tidbits, but I don't know the full picture as to what exactly happened then. For that I hopefully will finice Clone Wars.
Basically, whoever has the dark saber is the ruler of Mandalore.
Of the Mandalore, yeah, that I get, but who has it?
It was last with Bo-Katan, even in Clone Wars.
So I think,
lost.
Yeah. So I think Bo-Katan might be dead, or I'm not sure. So if they'll go there,
I don't want to give away spoilers. So.
No, yeah. Don't give away spoilers. So we'll just find out later.
I just read Carl Weathers.
The directors.
Carl Weathers will be one of the directors.
Yeah, Carl Weathers will be. Carl Weathers, of course, plays Greef Karga. He's going to be one of the.
Mando. I think he has the best. Yeah. Every time he enters a scene, there's like.
Will include the same people: Dave Filoni, Rick Famuyiwa, Deborah Chow, Bryce Dallas Howard, Taika Waititi, and Jon Favreau. I think Taika Waititi and also Rian Johnson is slated to direct one episode.
Yeah, correct. I had heard this. I think Rian Johnson.
Yeah, Rian Johnson is also slated to direct one episode, which I don't know how I feel about. Because
I will love it.
Because on TV, I like Rian Johnson, I don't really understand his idea. I don't really agree with a lot of his ideas on about what he has on Star Wars, because I don't agree.
No, this is a tightly written project. I think he'll
do just fine. If you look at his direction,
he'll do more than fine. Yeah,
he'll do more than fine. I think I'm just basing it off the Skywalker trilogy. You're just basing it off the Skywalker trilogy, and that's what you're basing it off. But if we look at his independent projects, or his movies as independent projects, if you just look at his work, how he directs, how he gets the story out, I am not doubting for him.
I just don't have.
The guy made the perfect hour of television, man. Ozymandias in Breaking Bad is perfect TV. I think that made me more emotional than anything. Rian Johnson
that episode actually made me pick up smoking again. It was that intense. So anyway, Sarthak says one of the 2 of the finest shows of 2019 for me, second only to The Watchmen. We haven't really spoken about Watchmen on this podcast, but hopefully in the near future. For Anshuman says the problem with editorial development departments, it is the PR marketing that does all of these things, which Arindam was touching upon previously. Like how a great novel will have a terrible blurb at the end. Rituparna said she hasn't really watched Clone Wars, and I would advise her to please start watching Clone Wars. Clone Wars is amazing.
Yeah, it's on Hotstar.
It's on
Disney
Hotstar.
Hotstar.
And Saket says, writed that Rosario Dawson has a role which will shoot her into the mainstream. She said it. I think I agree with you. Because I really want Ahsoka Tano to be done well. And I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have so much faith that they would do this character justice. But just because of the fact that Dave Filoni is attached to it, that is the only reason why I'm so excited for this. Because Dave Filoni, if you have watched if you are familiar with his work and even watched the Hotstar making of documentary of Mantle, we just came out today, they say that he is someone who they don't mention Kathleen Kennedy, they don't mention any of the Disney execs. They keep talking about George Lucas's vision. And that is something which I'm really excited for because Mandalorian is a show, or at least it's the type of show which Lucas wanted to make since the 90s. He just didn't have the budget nor the all the technical aspects with him at that time. And he was so invested in making the prequels that he did not really have the budget because he always wanted to make a crime show set in the Star Wars universe. So this is Dave Filoni trying to bring George Lucas's vision into thing. And no matter what anyone says, no matter what quality prequels are, I will always love and respect George Lucas for this entire world that he has given us. And no matter what anyone says, that is, no one can take that away from him. And that brings us to the end of the podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for sticking with us. It's over midnight. It's almost 12:30. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you very much, Arindam, Anirban, and Parjanya for joining in with your half-nakedness. Next podcast, we will probably be talking about horror films. So if you are a fan of horror films, please try to log in at that time. Parjanya, we would also want you to be there so that you can learn a thing and overcome your fears about watching horror.
गांड पड़ती है तो नंगा क्यों बैठा है?
On that note, thank you very much for listening. See you guys on the next podcast. May the force be with you. Go Corona, go. Jai Madadi, let's rock.
Go Corona.
Go Corona.
Go.
Good night.